Mr. Anthony Daniels, for us is an honor and a pleasure to have you today in Prisa Media from Colombia. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for coming today, and I am thrilled for the first time to be in Bogota, in Colombia. My wife and I have been to South America, all sorts of countries, but the first time to Colombia. We're excited.
Oh, excellent. Anthony, we would like to know about the birth of the character of C-3PO. Did you thought it was going to be a protocol android since the beginning?
Oh yes, the script was written by George Lucas. I had no idea until I read it what it was about. Even then it was very difficult to read. It's very complicated when you see the film, but when you see it written down in a script, it's crazy. But the thing I liked most was the character of C-3PO, as George Lucas had written him.
If you get the chance, would you play C-3PO again in the future?
That's a really good question. I love C-3PO, and I've grown to love him more over the years. But playing him is very, very difficult. He has given me lots of good things, but when we make the film, to be dressed up like this is, and by yourself, because once I am in that costume, it feels very lonely. So it is a mixture. Would I do it again? It's not going to happen, so it's not a good question.
But if, for example, you get a call today for, hey, we got this chance, we're making some sequels from the movie, would you be willing to do it? I mean, do you miss the character?
Well, I am still working as C-3PO, even as we speak. I can't tell you the projects I'm involved in because Disney are listening everywhere and they like to keep things secret. So I haven't stopped playing 3PO yet.
Anthony, if you had the chance to choose a power or ability of the Jedi, of the Sith in real life, which one would it be and why?
I'd probably like to play the piano without practicing at it, just to be able to play. But I don't think Sith play the piano very much, do they? They're not very artistic, not very sociable people. The Sith just like to go around being mean to people. Why? You know, and do they ever have fun? Have you ever seen a Sith make a joke or eat a nice meal? They just go around wounding people and waving their lightsabers around. They just want power for power's sake. How utterly pointless.
Anthony, what do you think is the message C-3PO sends to the world and the young people?
Wow, that's a good question. Star Wars is full of messages. The one particularly, I think, with 3PO is loyalty. That he is loyal to people he trusts, people he admires, that he likes. The bad people he just thinks are very rude and misbehave. And he's very loyal to his companions like R2-D2 and like BB-8. And 3PO just wants everybody to be calm and nice and stop arguing about everything. And in our world, on this planet, in this galaxy, wouldn't that be great?
You were talking about how hard it is to wear C-3PO's armor, from your arms, getting like this.
Yeah.
You said you were feeling lonely. What was the hardest scene you had to shoot on C-3PO that you say, oh my God, this day was a very hard day?
Yeah, most of the days were like that. I'm not complaining, it's just how it is. But remember that the first day was in the desert on Tatooine, outside the land crawler, with the Jawas, where Luke Skywalker buys and Uncle Owen. And that was the first time I had the costume on seriously. And it was a nightmare. I had no idea. It had taken 2 hours to put the costume on, half an hour to put the head on, and then I was ready, and then no rehearsal, just action. I had no idea what to do.
And what did George Lucas said? You said, "Hey, guys, I can move, I can breathe."
No, he just said action, and when I couldn't say the lines, sir, my first job was programming binary load lifters, very similar to your evaporators in many respects. I couldn't say it. They were crazy lines. I was all confused. I was in this costume. I couldn't see other than like this. I couldn't really hear very well. I was uncomfortable. My suit had already broken down here. I wasn't in a good place. And I couldn't say the line. George went, cut, action. I still couldn't say the line, cut, action. I still cut. He came over and said, don't worry about the voice. We can fix it later. You can say anything you want. This was very strange. Because I come from the theatre mostly, where all the other actors rely on you, me, saying the script. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. So here was George Lucas saying, do what you want. So, action. Well, it was more action. Action, yeah. Sir, my first job was... Terrific, cut. That was it. That was my first day. And the worst thing about the day, because it had taken 2 hours to put on the costume, they didn't want me to take it off at lunchtime. So I stood all day alone. It was really sad. So I spent the lunchtime watching people over there. They were having a nice time. And I was looking out over the desert and feeling incredibly alone. Very sad. It got better.
If you could choose your lightsaber.
Oh, stop it. I do not... What color would it be?
No.
Oh, right. What?
I don't know. In my case, you know,
Yeah.
on the dark side, obviously the red. But I want to know your opinion, green or blue on another color. You know,
Well,
in the Star Wars universe is huge.
Blue is my favorite color. How can I know lightsabers are very important to many fans, really, and the color is important. And maybe it's because I watch people using lightsabers on the set, and they are just going, Why are all lightsabers fights like, You know, why do people turn around all the time? If I was fighting, I'd wait for you to turn around, then I'd just stab you in the back. It's crazy. So the color of a lightsaber is not as important as the sound, really, because Ben Burt, when you see it on the set, nothing is happening. Just people bang, bang, bang. But when you add... Is that good? Can you do a lightsaber? No, that's rubbish.
It's wrong.
Yeah. And 3PO really abhors violence. In one of the movies, episode 7? No, 2. Episode 2, I think. He has a blaster, doesn't he? And as an actor, that was great fun, because suddenly you feel empowered. I know people like weapons. I don't. I don't own a gun. I never will. But to have one on set, and they had to wire it into my hands, because in those days, 3PO's hands couldn't hold anything. They were like,
It's difficult.
So they wired this thing into me. And then I felt really powerful. And of course, you have to go, and then again, without sound, it's like, so you end up automatically going, that's the one time. So, no, weapons, kids love weapons. I mean, probably I think the lightsaber is more elegant, as Obi-Wan would have said. A weapon for a more elegant time, or words to that effect. So, I don't want a lightsaber. If I was a cookie, I wouldn't tell you what flavor I was going to be. I have been asked these questions many times.
I want to know your first meet with the director, George Lucas.
Oh, the first meeting with George Lucas was It's in my book, which you can buy in Spanish, Hoy C-3PO, La historia desde dentro. And there is a page that I ripped out from my diary, which is in November 1975.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that old, yes. And my agent had talked about this low-budget science fiction film being made by an American and the part of a robot, and I said, yeah, no, not interested. And she said, you know, stupido, go and meet him. Yeah, and so I went to meet George, and he was not at all how I imagined. He was delightful. He was quiet and thoughtful and real and intelligent and just terrific. And I've talked about this many times, but it was the painting by Ralph McQuarrie, a concept painting of this lonely figure. And it captured my imagination. And indeed, on the set, I felt this loneliness. I talked about it earlier. Because it's very hard for the other actors to relax around you or for me to relax with them. Because, you know, cut, lunch or coffee, they've all gone away and I'm going, So meeting George was a delight. Seeing Ralph McQuarrie's painting was absolutely fundamental to me being in it. Then the next day they sent me a script, and as I said, I managed to read it. I didn't really understand it, but I understood him. I totally connected with him, and I had nothing to do with the way it was written. So this was magic. This was the force taking over. Yes. So the next day, I went back to see George again, and we talked for an hour. And this time I was nervous. Yes, you said you were nervous. So I know what being nervous is about. Because now I was really interested. And finally I said, please, may I play the part? And he said, sure. And that sound changed my life, totally changed my life. That sound leads me to be in Bogota for Comic Con, all these years later. Yeah, one sound, not even a word.
You've mentioned several times that you felt lonely on that suit, but something that we the fans love about C-3PO is their connection with R2-D2. R2-D2 is always on his own, and C-3PO is, oh my God, come back. How was the relationship with Kenny Baker? We all miss Kenny Baker.
Well,
so one
of the important things to realize, which many people don't, is Kenny Baker was in it very little. Mostly it was a remote control machine. And now when I come to a Comic Con, I see machines that are so much better. The original, it was the first time they tried to do it, and it didn't work so well. Mainly for two reasons. Out in the desert, anything that's operated by radio is bound to malfunction. It's bound to pick up the local taxi radio stations or the local pop radio station. Also, anything that is mechanical in a desert is going to grind to a halt with sand getting everywhere. So often it would break down. But the main shock for me was on day 1 or day 2, when I had dialogue with R2-D2. And for the first time, I realized that it didn't make any noise. It didn't speak. It didn't go, beep, 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 beep. It didn't do anything. And nobody had told me this. 6 months of making the costume, of reading the script, reading the interaction between R2-D2 and C-3PO. Nobody, George Lucas nor the producer, said, oh, by the way, it doesn't make any noise. That will be put on afterwards. How can... They were thinking of lots of other things. So I talked to myself all through the movie. If it was R2-D2, if it was Mark Hamill, then he spoke to me. And I believe that one reason people believe in C-3PO as a character is that Luke Skywalker believes he's real. Even Han Solo believes he's real. Princess Leia, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They all talk to 3PO as a real entity, as a real, almost human. Certainly an amazing piece of artificial intelligence. But talking with R2, I would leave gaps. So I would say my line, and then had to act as if it was saying, but I'm going to go.
So you imagined how it would sound when you answer, oh, don't say that. Oh,
Yeah, curiously, it's a good point. Curiously, I only ever thought of him as speaking English. Do you see? I didn't, because nobody made beep sound, nobody made a sound at all. So I would write out in English. There's a script I remember particularly well. Wait a minute. Where are you going? This was after they'd landed in the thing, and it was being pulled along on a wire. And then my line was, what makes you think that a settlement's over there? So then I had to go backwards and think, my line, where are you going? R2-D2 would say, I'm going to see if there are settlements. I think there are settlements over there. What makes you think there are settlements over there? Do you see? So I had to keep going back. Yeah. And then I had to hold it in my head whilst not being able to see what. And R2-D2 often was too low for my eye line, so I'd be looking down here, which is a different character. So I would pretend I could see him. So the whole scene was in my head. And not until the movie came out, that was the first time I saw and heard R2-D2 speak. And it was a miracle. And Ben Burt, who also did lights over, the breathing, he made the R2-D2 sounds. And one of the clever things was that he had his baby make, the baby made baby sounds into a microphone. I don't think he paid. It was his son. Ben Jr., who, and that is very clever because it adds to the humanity of R2-D2. Because, it's making human sound, not just beep beep. So it was all very clever, but it added to my sense of loneliness. But at drama school, I had learned to improvise, where they would give you an object, a chair, and you had to make the audience believe. So I made the audience believe R2-D2.
that's amazing.
So, you were asking me about Colombia.
Yeah, you said this is the first time you come to Colombia. What have you enjoyed from our country so far?
I've only just arrived in Colombia and been very busy with preparing for Comic Con and so on. But my wife Christine and I are here for several more days, and then we plan to enjoy Colombia, and particularly the food and maybe the wine. I don't know. It's good, but. Already flying in, I can see what a beautifully green and productive country it is, and I'm very excited about that. And seeing the rows where you grow all the flowers and things, it's just very exciting for us. And the people here, all the fans I've met so far, are just the same as fans everywhere else in the world. It's quite magic that there is a common language of Star Wars. That means it doesn't matter whether you're a Japanese fan, Colombian, Chilean, German, whatever. You all like, in your case, the dark side, or in my case, the other side, whatever. You all like things to do with. Well, you need the dark side. If everybody was nice, there would be no story. The dark side helps drama, doesn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Villains
Agreed.
are very important. Darth Vader, my favorite character. Who do you think my favorite character in all the movies is?
It's a hard question.
It's a hard question, so I'm going to answer it for you. Because 3PO is one of the most charming, kind, a little irascible perhaps, but always good feeling. His character favorite would be Princess Leia or Luke Skywalker. Mine, as Anthony Daniels, would be Darth Maul, the nastiest, most vicious, played by Ray Park, beautifully played, and stunts and all that with Ray. So there is something for everybody in this whole banquet of Star Wars characters and stories now.
Like I said, we are coming from a rock planet, radio station. What rock and roll band are your favorite? Can you have you any experience in a concert or a tour?
One of the sad things about being at Comic Con in Bogota this weekend, very sad, is that my wife and I cannot be at Glastonbury in England. We were invited, we have been several times, but having agreed to come to Bogota, we sacrificed our tickets. So I think people in Bogota will want to be very nice to me to make up for it this weekend.